This is Papa Deal.
This is your dad speaking. I'm old enough to be most of y'all's dad. Well, not really most. Probably half of you. I'm old enough to be half of y'all's dad. This is Papa Deal's advice here.
Iron Fury, thank you for the support. RIP NVIDIA. And hello, my new friends. Soon an R5 5600X and an RX 6800 XT after the reviews. There we go.
Wait. What? Wait.
I was waiting for it. I was like, oh.
Wait.
Iron Fury. Iron Fury. There's a bit of a problem. You don't have a balance system.
Why? You know, oh God.
Yep.
We sat on 4 cores for longer than we should have. But that time is over. It is rapidly moving. And it is going to move so quickly in the next few years. You say, well, that game doesn't need more than 8 cores. No, it doesn't. But here's my fundamental problem with benchmarking. Everyone runs their benchmarks. I mean, everyone that's worth watching, from Gamers Nexus to Linus Tech Tips to that tech channel from Australia that will not be named. Everyone runs their benchmarks on clean test benches with fresh installs of Windows in perfectly controlled environments with nothing running in the background. How many of you use a computer like that?
No one.
No one.
They've got an i7 7700, GTX 1070 and 16 gigs of RAM. They want to play the new Call of Duty Cold War Battle Royale. What should be the next upgrade?
Either an i9 or a Ryzen 9.
Yep.
Full stop. If you've got a 7700, you've got 4 cores. Call of Duty Cold War, which is the upcoming Call of Duty.
Yeah,
Battle Royale with 100 people on 4 cores? Are you joking? That is no bueno.
You can't put lipstick on a pig. Yeah, you can.
But then it's just lipstick on a pig.
Well,
by the way, would you please tell Ian he needs to get off Broadwell E?
40s, it might run on a Phenom that...
There is so much to using a computer that is not freaking average frame rates. Mm-hmm. We upgraded Rogue from a Ryzen 5 3600X to an i9 10850K. Whee! 6 cores to 10 cores, Zen 2 to Comet Lake. So she can play World of Warships.
Yeah, but you don't have to be a power user, AV. This is the thing.
That game does not need 10 cores. That game doesn't even need 6 cores. Rogue, would you please tell everybody whether or not it was blatantly, easily obvious when we upgraded you? Now, both machines had good NVMe drives. Both machines had at least 32 gigs of RAM. Both machines were clean and well optimized, good coolers, good motherboards. What was the experience going from 6 to 10 cores and Zen 2 to Comet Lake?
Awesome. I could command my computer and it would go, yes, ma'am. Rather than having to wait for my 3600, everything loaded faster, everything downloaded faster.
How about just clicking through the menus in World of Warships?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. The battle results screens.
Yep, the results screens, yeah. Yeah, everything responded faster.
Updates, multitasking. Mm-hmm. You do have 2 monitors.
Yeah, I got a ultra wide and then a 27-inch. Just using the usability of my computer went from...
Do you play Cyberpunk?
No.
Do you play Elden Ring?
Nope.
Do you play The Median?
Nope.
Do you play Call of Duty 64-player multiplayer online combat games?
No.
Do you play Battlefield 2042?
No.
Well, then what the heck do you need with a 10-core chip? That's nonsense. To everybody out there who thinks you don't need one, okay, you don't. You know what? You don't. She could have used her 3600X. We can afford to upgrade her to a 10-core. If you can afford to upgrade to a 10-core, Life is too short to use a crappy computer.
I need to create that.
We need to get that on a coffee mug.
You can't show it in a video.
It doesn't show in a video. It's not a benchmark. It's a user. You have to put your hands on the keyboard and use it.
And there'll be plenty of people who can put their testimonial in chat going, I was one of these people, now I'm one of these people, and holy crap.
Call of Duty Ops in our Discord is another one of those. It's like, almost every time, there's been a couple of exceptions, but over 90% of the time, when somebody who finally goes, I'm sick of hearing about it, fine, okay, here's the deal, I'll upgrade. I've actually had people say that they upgraded to prove me wrong. And then they post, oh, wow. Why didn't anybody tell me? Question number 5 comes from Paul, and I will paraphrase because I've tried 3 times to read this question the way he wrote it. The 4070 specs are basically out. They are still rumors. It is not officially announced, but what it looks like is it's going to be $599, and it looks like it's going to be 10 to 15% slower than a 4070 Ti. If that ends up being true, then the 4070 Ti looks kind of dumb. He wants to know if it is worth it for gaming at 1440p Ultra, or should he go with a 6800 XT? That's an interesting question. Let me give you my first gut response, and then we'll get to the nuance. 1440p Ultra. I am assuming you are referring to AAA games. Because if you're referring to Overwatch, then okay, you don't need any of this. But we're going to assume that you want to play Hogwarts Legacy, you want to play Cyberpunk, you want to play all the new Elden Ring AAA games that have come out recently. The Last of Us, looking at you. I would like to introduce you to the RTX 4090. Now, I know what you're going to say, but Tech, that's $1,600. That's crazy. 1440p Ultra. Would you like your card to last longer than a hot minute? Take a 3070 and try to run everything at 1440p Ultra. It wasn't too bad the day it launched, but it aged like warm milk on a Saturday afternoon in the hot sun. How many of you would say that an RTX 3080 from 2020 is still going to be playing 2025 AAA games at 1440p ultra detail? If any of you think that's true, how do I explain this? That's not how computers work. That's not how video games work. That's not how anything works. Not in this industry. You will still absolutely be able to use a 3080 in 2025. But 2025 is only 2 years from now. The 3080 will be 5 years old. At that point, 1440p AAA gaming ultra detail is just no bueno. So that brings me back to if you want those conditions, the RTX 4090 is your friend. I've actually said this during the live streams many times. If you want to play all the latest AAA games, you want to run them at 1440p or 1440p ultra wide, or God forbid 4K, you want to run them at 100 to 144 frames per second, and you want to be able to turn all the details to the ridiculous settings and enjoy, then you need to buy the top level video card from each generation. NVIDIA typically releases new cards every 2 years, and AMD follows suit with a pretty similar schedule. So 3090 in 2020, 4090 in 2022, 5090 in 2024, 6090 in 2026, you've just now learned what your life is going to look like. That's what that takes. You do not need to do it. You can compromise. You can turn settings down. But if you're trying to do that, people need to hear this. So normally, I would suggest that if you want to build something that's really nice, that'll blow away a 4-year-old laptop, the i5 13600K for $300, or a Ryzen 7 7700X for $300 would be your go-to solution. The benefit to the 13600K is it is faster than the 7700X in multitasking. The E-cores really come in handy. It's about equal in single-core performance, and it's reasonably priced. You can use it for many, many years. I really like the 13600K. I think it's a great value for a lot of people. The 7700K is not quite as good, but it has the benefit of an upgrade path. Now, you say you don't want to care for a while. However, the benefit to the upgrade path is you get the 7700X now for $300, and in 3 years you could just drop a 9700X or something into it and upgrade to Zen 5 or Zen 6, which is a pretty cool thing. Then you went and mentioned Hogwarts, Cyberpunk, 628 browser tabs, and multi-boxing running multiple instances of the same game at the same time. Well, that is why there is a Ryzen 9 and an i9 sitting on the desk and not a i5 or a Ryzen 7, which I know confuses a lot of people because they say, wait a minute, you recommend the i5 but then the Ryzen 7? Well, yeah, because those are just product names. Product names mean nothing. All that matters is performance and specifications. I mean, yes, from a consumer retail point of view, product names are supposed to inform, but the i5 13600K is a 14-core, 20-thread processor. The Ryzen 5 7600X is a 6-core, 12-thread chip. They are monstrously not the same thing. In fact, the 7700X is an 8-core, 16-thread chip, and in multi-core performance, depending upon the application or program, the 13600K just wipes the floor with it. For similar performance, you have to go up to the Ryzen 9 7900X, and once you go to that, you might as well get the 7950X, and all of a sudden, Zen 4 is a really expensive platform. But it's not upgradable. Yes, I know the i9 exists. If you're buying an i5 13600K, it's not upgradable. You doubt that? The i5 6600K would like a word. The i5 8600K would like a word. The i5 10600K would like a word. It doesn't make any sense. There's no upgrade path because it's only the current platform. Yes, you could buy an i5 13600K today and say, well, but I'll buy the i9 13900K in the future. No, you won't. Yes, I will. Well, yes, you would, but no offense, you'd be an idiot to do so. Oh, tech just called somebody an idiot. Financial idiot. Is that better? Here's the deal. This will never get substantially cheaper. It's the best chip on the platform. The Ryzen 9 5950X on the AM4 platform will remain expensive for a long time. It's the best chip on the platform. The i9 9900K is the best chip on the 300 series platform. It's still $300, 5 years post-launch. It has not even lost half its value in 5 years. This might very well be a $300 chip 4 years from now. Your i5 13600K might be a $100 chip 4 years from now. 300, 500, 100, 300. You gain nothing. It's still $200 to upgrade. Pay the $200 now and enjoy the i9. Upgrading within a single platform rarely makes sense and is one of the biggest wastes of money that I see people do.
Coffee, thank you so much for the Canadian maple syrup. My husband this week. Why can't I play those two video games at the same time without stuttering? Me, darling, your PC only has 8 cores.
Oh.
That's funny.
He's got 32 gigs of DDR4 3600 CL 14 14 14 34. That is Samsung B-Die. It was epic when it came out. It isn't as good as it used to be. I have 2 separate kits of that stuff. When we first got it and tested it, the difference in the benchmarks was there in benchmarks. It doesn't make a huge difference in the real world. Sure as heck doesn't make a difference in 4K. But I have since discovered in more recent testing that the modern chips don't use it the way the chips used it when it came out. On an i7 8700K overclocked, it was faster and it made a difference. I didn't test it on the 13900K, but I did test it on the 13600K. Would you like to have your mind blown?
Okay, go.
DDR4 3600 CL18 was faster than CL14.
No.
It's not supposed to be.
No.
It was. We tested it extensively. Multiple games, multiple scenarios, live gameplay and benchmarks. Take it out, put it on a 9900K, it's faster again. There's something about the memory controller in the new chips There's some wait state being introduced. The Raptor Lake chips were designed for DDR5. The DDR4 backwards compatibility was kind of stuck on there to make it work. I can't tell you why, but I can tell you this. The Samsung B die lost its edge on the new chips. Isn't that weird?
Yep, just a little bit.
It's such a narrow case. It's the kind of thing that you discover when you're testing. If I had a full crew of editors and scriptwriters and people to help me make videos, it's the kind of thing we'd make a video about. It's the kind of thing that I think more tech channels should cover. But I used to make videos about that kind of stuff, but first of all, too many of them don't get enough views. We didn't get enough views on those kind of things.
Yep.
And Samsung B die is such a corner case, and Samsung B die on Raptor Lake versus slower DDR4 is such an unbelievable corner case, and you can't get the stuff anymore. I mean, it's not commonly sold anymore.
Well, he said that he went DDR4 because it was mature, and the motherboard that he got was the best DDR4 motherboard at the time.
I understand, but it's average DDR5 with a 4090 is still going to win.
Well, he said he upgraded a month ago and had the RAM laying around, so that's why he went with that.
Right. He had the RAM laying around from his 8700K, where it did make a difference.
But
Stick 64 gigs of DDR4 3600 CL18 on there. Be surprised. Run them. Benchmark them. Do something at 4K. Run Spider-Man. Run, actually Call of Duty does have a built-in benchmark. Cyberpunk.
yeah.
It's weird. But then do it again on your 8700K and then the B-die wins.
He'll go back to his 8700 game.
Isn't that weird? Somebody on Twitter was, I don't want to say arguing, disagreeing with me regarding the FX chips.
Did they have an opinion?
They had an opinion. I basically called the FX chips hot garbage in 2020. And the reason being is, as I said, look, the only redeeming quality of an FX chip at this point is if your two available choices are FX-based computer or no computer with two tin cans and a string. And I will grant you, compared to two tin cans and a string, this is the coolest processor on earth. For what it is, for how old it is, and for the fact that it functions at all in 2020 and it sucked originally, the fact that it will in fact run modern games and it will run modern Windows, and the fact that it does anything at all is pretty cool. They're also very, very cheap, especially if you don't live in the United States and your new CPU options are quite expensive. If you live in Brazil or India or Indonesia or Antarctica or the moon or Mars. Hi, Elon Musk. It's amazing that it functions at all. However, if you are not destitute, you should not be running this in 2020. Even if you say, but I just check email and browse the web and watch some videos. Yeah. If you have any kind of money, you should be on Ryzen or anything newer, because these truly are terrible. And of course, the standard response I get from somebody is, but it'll play games at 60 frames per second. Yeah, so will on Core 2 Quad in a lot of cases. In fact, there's a video on the channel. Speaking of which, there's a video on the channel actually showing that. This is Overwatch on a Core 2 Quad Q6600 from 2007, 13 years ago, and a GT 1030 El Cheapo card, which launched at 70 and should be 30 right now, but it isn't. It's a shame it's not, because it would legit be fine for a lot of people. I'd like to point out that this is currently running at almost 60 frames per second.
A little bit shy, yeah.
In fact, let me go ahead and make it full screen.
So everybody can see it.
So this is, okay, it's not quite 60 frames. Oh, shush. It's not quite 60 frames per second. But the fact that it's functional and playable.
It doesn't look like it's stuttering or anything.
It is a bit. I mean, I can just, my eye can see it.
Oh, there, a little bit.
It's. I don't have the frame time graph up here, but yeah, it's not ideal. This is a 13-year-old CPU and an L budget, L cheapo,
That's
nothing
true.
graphics card.
It's pretty impressive.
That's what she said. The fact that this works at all is amazing. Raise your hand if you think we should be encouraging people to buy Core 2 Quads to play Overwatch or Fortnite or anything. I mean, it does. But so I was having a conversation on Twitter with somebody, and the point is, if your option is nothing or this or a Core 2 quad, you know what? Rock on, run what you've got, use what you've got, play the games that will run the programs that will run, and be grateful that you have a working, functioning computer. I've got an i7 4790K and a GTX 1080 Ti. Looking at upgrading the CPU, gaming, recording, and streaming. And the question is, what do you buy? What do you upgrade to? Is the i9 10850K 10-core 20-thread 10th gen chip worth the money? Or should he wait for new CPUs? The 11th gen is coming next year pretty soon. And of course, 12th gen not too far after that. That is a great question. And the answer is very much going to be, it depends. Now, the question doesn't have all the details about resolution and specifically what games are being played, so I'll give a couple of different answers here. First of all, the GTX 1080 Ti is a great card, and if you bought it at launch and you own it today, while it's obviously worth less than what you paid for it, you've gotten great value out of it. It still has great performance today, but it would not really be an appropriate card to install on a $500 10-core 20-thread 5.2 gigahertz chip like the i9 10980. The i9
10850.
Intel. Hi, Intel guy. Your product numbers are terrible, but your CPUs are amazing. So, the i9 10850K, thank you. You would want to put an RTX 3080 on that. And if you wanted to maybe bide your time to see if 3080 Supers or 3080 Ti's come out, I understand. Maybe you keep your 1080 Ti just to wait for a 3080 Ti. But so long as you mentally have made the decision, when that comes, I'll make the jump, okay, you could tide yourself over. On the flip side, your i7 4790K is a great CPU that still runs games well today, and a 1080 Ti is an excellent combination. Consider possibly keeping that as a computer. Don't break it up. The combination of the motherboard, the CPU, the RAM, because you got DDR3, and the graphics card is a great combo. Either sell it as a working machine, keep it as a backup computer. Never hurts. Maybe you want a spare computer. You talk about streaming and recording games. Maybe you want a 2-computer setup. Now, may not have room for it, but if you do,
well, he could use that as a streaming computer.
He could use that as a stream. You could run OBS with a inexpensive $100 capture card, and you could have the 1080 Ti handle the encoding and the CPU, and you could have chat and everything on a separate computer. Here's what I would like to know from all of you.
Yes.
If you're going to Gen 4, if you're going to the Samsung top of the line, why on goodness gracious anything would you not buy the 1 terabyte drive? Why do the small ones exist? Because if you say, well, 230 is a lot of money, so I'll spend 150. Yeah, but then you're a budget person. You should be buying a 1 terabyte Gen 3 drive. Gen 4 is not going to blow your skirt up over Gen 3 in a way that makes 500 gigs worth it over a terabyte. And of course, if you're adding storage to a PlayStation 5 and you just spent $400 or $500 on your console and you're going to spend hundreds of dollars on games, you have one M.2 slot for expansion on PlayStation 5. You're going to fill it with a 500 gig drive? No, you're not. Come on. Premium games, premium experience, premium quality, high resolution, nice graphics cards, lots of detail. Don't play with toys. Pick one. On the other hand, that huge list of games that we just went through will not run any better on an i9 than an i3. A Ryzen 9 versus a Ryzen 3. Now, your overall computing experience, your general computing experience using Windows and Chrome and web browsers and multitasking and running game launch updaters and online backup and Discord voice chat, of course, more cores, a faster chip will make all those nicer.
But won't it flatten out the...
Of course. But if you have one monitor and you're just doing one game, A 4-core chip may very well have 5 years of usefulness in front of it.
Right.
I'm addressing a comment that I forget who. Ranger Smith said, hardware unboxed is thorough, but too objective and not open-minded. He has a very specific focus on how he does testing.
Yes.
He looks at current games now without any look to the future.
Now.
And he says that a 6-core chip is all you need to play any game today.
That is not released. I mean, that is released.
That is already released.
That's current.
That you can test. He's right on one monitor with nothing in the background. He's correct.
But we're all about user experience and value for money, which means you have to look forward a little further than what you're probably currently used to.
You have to see into the future a bit.
Well, most people are trying to catch up to today, let alone... Most people are having trouble catching up to today, let alone seeing further.
That is true. There might be somebody watching us right now who's suffering on a Core 2 quad. You know what? This i3-10100 will destroy your Core 2 quad and will be a huge upgrade. If you've got a Core 2 quad and a GTX 280
280
and 4 gigs of RAM, the $500 bill today will blow your world.
Well, Sunil here has a question. He's like, should he upgrade from a 4700K to a 10900K or a 10700K for playing Microsoft Flight Sim? He's struggling with frames at 1080p, even with 2080 Ti.
i9.
The i9.
Flight Sim, you have a 2080 Ti? Yeah, I know.
Here's your Flight Sim cache there, Sunil.
If you've got a 2080 Ti, your CPU better have a 9 in its number.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like somebody buying a 3080 and not having a 9 in their CPU.
Oh, no.
i9, Ryzen 9.
3600s all over the place.
And I don't care whether you buy an Intel or an AMD chip because they're so comparable and they're so close. There's some cases where one wins and there's some cases where the other wins. I'm more concerned the fact that he's running a 2080 Ti on a 2013 CPU. The i7 4770 is 2013. It's first gen Haswell.
4-core.
4-core 8-thread.
8 threads.
He's running a $1,200 video card on a 7-year-old CPU. Stop that. I love it.
Tech will be playing, I don't know, Battletech, and he'll be like, do you want to play World of Warships? I'm like, okay. So I crank up World of Warships, and he goes Alt-Tab.
Oh, many times I'll have more than one game running. I don't close a game when I want to launch another game. I'll be encoding a video or compressing some files and playing a game, and then I'll launch World of Warships to play with her, and I got a YouTube video playing in another screen. I want my computer, when I say jump, I want my computer to say, yes, sir, how high?
Looks like Coffee, he needs some more cores.
8 cores? Ouch!
He only has 8 cores.
Well. The 7800X3D kicks the 14900K on loads of games.
We've got a lot of new people.
Does it now? Are you sure? Watch too many Gamers Nexus benchmarks, have you? Gamers Nexus benchmarks aren't wrong. Steve does a very good job of compiling large amounts of data. The problem is he's showing you an RTX 4090 at 1080p. Who cares? You're not running at that condition. Yes, in absurd scenarios, it is faster. The minute you crank up the resolution, the minute you don't have a 4090, the minute you have anything less than a 4090 and not 1080p, most of that gap goes away. Now, with a 4090 at 1440p, there is still some difference. With a 3090, there's not. At 4K, there's not. Here's the problem. All of those benchmarks that you all see, clean test bench, nothing else running, fresh install of Windows, fresh driver installs, everything's perfect. These are clean systems designed to produce repeatable results run on scripts. They don't sit there and play games. They have automated script runners. They aren't doing anything with the machines. The 24 cores on a 14900K on a real computer that you are really using that has real crap installed will be better than you think it is. So, I understand why people say this. That's because they see benchmarks that are script runs on perfect machines that are wiped regularly. But it's not a real world scenario. I've got Ryzen 7 5700Gs, a 5950X, a 13900K as our video editing machine, and everything in between. When we switch between all these machines, you start to notice all the differences. And you go, well, come on, nobody needs that much RAM. Nobody needs all those cores. You know, people who don't use their computer much don't.
No.
There's a lot of people, I completely acknowledge, that a Ryzen 7 5700X and RX 6700 XT, 32 gigs of RAM, and a 1440p monitor will actually meet a majority of PC users' needs, and it will do so very, very well. It's not the top of the line, but it doesn't have to be. It's a really, really nice experience. It's not that expensive anymore. If you want to play Fortnite, League of Legends, and World of Tanks, and Call of Duty, and Battlefield 2042, which, okay, that could actually use some more cores, but so be it. Apex Legends. Apex Legends will run a treat on that machine. What do you get for being on the latest and greatest? Unless you're a pro gamer, not much. Apex Legends runs great on a 5700X with a 6700 XT at 1440p. That's a great value for the money. Where I push back is when people say, well, since that works, no one needs anything else and there's no point to more. You may need more depending upon your use case. How much do we harp on use case?
A lot.
Do you have one monitor or two? Or three? That makes a big difference. Not because driving the other monitor is hard for your video card. Running a game on one monitor and having two monitors on either side does not inherently put a substantial strain. Your video card can do that very, very easily. However, if the game is on your primary monitor, you have the other monitors because you're doing something. Are you watching a Twitch stream on this one? Do you have a walkthrough, a cheat guide or something on this one? Or if you just have two monitors, you're watching videos. You've got Chrome open. You've got your backup running. You've got
You're coding. You've got
stuff on the task tray. You've got all your launchers open. Windows is checking for updates in the background. When we benchmark, and this is true of Gamers Nexus and Linus and all the others, when we benchmark, Windows updates are turned off, antivirus scan is turned off, everything in the task tray is closed, GeForce Experience is not running. The machines are clean.
clean.
If you really use your computer that way, go buy an Xbox. I mean, that's because that's what you're doing. Is you built a very expensive Xbox. Okay, it's fine. You can have a PC if you want. I mean, customization mods, I get it. But you basically built a really expensive PlayStation 5.
Yep.
Not everybody needs that stuff, but if you've got two monitors, if you do more than just play game.
You mean like Anthony?
What did Anthony say?
Playing City Skylines, watching Daddy Deals, and downloading World of Warcraft.
Isn't that great to be able to do that?
Yep.
Not everybody wants to do that, but that's an example of how when somebody says you don't need more than X.
But he can.
Yeah,
Because
but
he's got it.
here's also where I'm going to push back.
Okay.
No one needs to play a computer game ever.
No.
It's a luxury.
Yep.
It's all want. Any game you play is want. You don't need it. I mean, heck, an i5 2400 will play a lot of games today. It'll do it poorly. They'll be stuttering. It's old, but it will. So you don't need anything newer. That's the problem with the term need. And that's just why I try to say, if your budget allows,
Yeah. Budget.
if you can afford it comfortably. If you can't, it's okay. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you any less of a member of the PC master race. It just means that your budget doesn't allow it. But if you can afford a 14900K, here's the last thought I'm going to offer, then we're going to move on.
Okay.
To everybody who says that a Ryzen 7 7800X3D is faster and better than a 14900K, how many of you have used both? I say this with all sincerity because if all you've ever done is watch other people's benchmarks and all you've done is read Reddit and see forum posts, I have extensively used both. Yes, when you press F5 and you run the benchmark and you're running at lower resolution with a 4090, yes, the 7800X3D is faster. I would never, ever, and I have a 4090, I would never take a 7800X3D over a 14900K. Not on your life. It would be a much worse experience in terms of actually using a computer. And this is the big central flaw of all the benchmarks that you see pasted all over YouTube and all over the internet, where all they're doing is running scripted benchmarks.
Just getting numbers.
You don't need a 14900K to enjoy a computer. But if you have the money, it's an amazing experience.
That's like trying to pick a partner from a Tinder profile without meeting him.
And just to be clear, this isn't an Intel versus AMD thing.
No.
I have a Ryzen 9 7950X in my machine. She has a Ryzen 9 7950X 3D in her personal gaming machine. This is not I think Intel's better. I think AMD's great. This is a, you won't appreciate 16 cores until you've had 16 cores. And to everybody who wants to say you don't need them, try it before you say that.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Scroll up to
Speech over.
speech over.
Yes.